InDoMable is next, and I will use the hopefully correct screen size. Here we are. Please complain in the chat. I'm keeping one eye on it. InDoMable from Spain, 2301 is next, and we'll see what he comes up with. He goes 1d4 again. I will this time around play knight f6, e6. See if he goes knight c3 or knight f3. Plays knight f3. I've never been a fan of the Queen's Indian or the Bogo Indian, so I'll play the only move I feel competent in here, the move d5, which could lead to the semi-Slav, Queen's Gambit declined, or the Catalan we see here. In an earlier video I went bishop e7 here, but I've always had a soft spot for the move dc4 as well, which is slightly less solid, but it does grab a pawn, so let's try that. dc and a6. Playing to, in the future, defend this pawn with pawn to b5. And he goes knight e5, which can lead to very sharp lines after both bishop b4 check and c5. Bishop b4, I think, is the more entertaining line. c5, arguably, a bit safer. Let's see what happens here. Knight c3. Now, the bad news for me is that I forgot all theory in this position. I think I'm supposed to start with knight to d5, but I really have to double check that I'm not losing material here. If the bishop takes d5, which I'm not, since I have queen takes d5. Main lines here, bishop d2, queen c2, or just castles. Castles sacrificing a lot of pawns is a very, very complicated line, which I have to admit I'm not ready for in this blitz game. So I'm going to have to think if there is a way to chicken out if he castles by playing, I don't know, b5. No, that looks unhealthy. Probably have to grab the pawn. This could be trouble, ladies and gentlemen. I played a line where I'm not fully ready to go. Well, let's see what happens first. He plays bishop d2, which is also a very sensible move. What am I supposed to do? Start with b5 here or start by bishop takes c3? Because the whole point of black setup is to keep this extra pawn, else my position doesn't make a lot of sense. But I can't remember a lot of details. It looks like I can get away with by starting with b5 and then later decide if I need to go bishop c3. Not sure, I'm slightly scared about knight takes d5, bishop d2, queen d2, ed, and then a move like queen to b4, but that might be irrational. He castles, and now I feel like it's high time to take here. b takes c, and I'll castle myself. Not sure if all of this is theory or if I mixed up something, which is very possible as well. Let me know in the chat if you are a theory expert. He plays e4 here. I'll put this knight on b6. White certainly has very good compensation for the pawn he sacrificed, so I'm not that impressed with my opening play, but it still might be known. h4, yeah, this is once again a typical move. Oof. I wish I knew more about this stuff. I'm tempted to go c5 already, giving back a pawn, trying to simplify the position. Or I could go f6. I think they go f6 quite often in these positions, just to push away the knight, slightly weakening, but not too bad, I would guess. Knight goes to g4. Well, this looks vaguely familiar, but I'm not into details here. Anyway, time to play the game. I've been talking too much, playing too slowly. Bishop b7 to occupy that diagonal looks logical. Playing to go f5 and take it from there. h5 is a typical move when I might go f5. This is quite a typical Catalan situation. Black is a pawn up, but he has to suffer White's initiative on the king side and White's control of the center. But it is very double-edged, and with White you can also very easily lose these positions, so the Catalan can become pretty sharp, as we see here. Not sure who's better and why. I wouldn't even be surprised if all of this stuff has already been played in a predecessor. Knight e3 was played, very logical as well, stopping f5. Now he goes h5. It's a tough decision if I want to allow h6 or stop it by playing h6 myself. Not quite sure, but I prefer to err on the side of active moves and go for c5, d5 takes. And now I'll try to put this knight on a more active square, which would be d3. White still has compensation. Knight f5 is in the air, h6 is in the air. But for now, if I'm not getting mated, if I can get in two more moves, queen d7, rook d8, let's say, I think I'm doing kind of all right. Let's see what InDoMable comes up with on the clock. I'm slightly ahead, but don't have a lot of time left either, so I might have to speed up a little bit at some point. Bishop e4 is another move that comes to mind, which looks like a good diagonal for that bishop. We'll have to queen d7 maybe as bishop f5. Tricky position. I think I'm alright, but it is certainly complicated. f4 was played. That makes my choice easier. I will jump into d3, see what he does. Not so easy to come up with a move for white here. Queen g4 looks kind of tempting. Probably I'll go queen d7. All the endgames are good for me. And it seems like the white queen would have to retreat after queen g4, queen d7. Knight f5 is possible. But once again, queen d7 is in the air. Looks like I'm kind of okay here if there's nothing drastic. Maybe it's time for white to go for something like h6, and if g6 then f5, just trying to create more weaknesses. That's what he does, playing a very good game so far in InDoMable. And yeah, I think I'll play ball and play g5, trying to keep it closed. When the structure on the king side is a little worrying, especially his pawn on h6 is always a huge nuisance, just because of the fact that if this white queen ever reaches the g7 square, it's going to be checkmate. So I will try not to let that happen. Queen d7, he could go knight g4, but then I got queen f7, and it looks like I'm hanging around. Knight f6, queen f6, yeah, there's not much going on there. Ooh, dangerous position. Under pressure here, but if I manage to defend, I will be winning, which is always a nice consolation. I'll pick up this pawn. I don't see why I shouldn't. Bishop d5, knight d5. And now I'm 2 pawns up. He plays a4. That looks like he's lost the thread a little bit. I'm not quite sure where, but if you have to play a4, trying to open another front here, something has gone wrong, and black is some material up. To b4, those pawns become a factor. So if there's nothing immediate happening on the king side, which it seems there's not, I think I have a probably winning position. Knight e3, I'll take that because that knight I'm afraid of anyway. Bishop takes, go rook a8, just developing with tempo. Next move I'll decide if b takes c3 or b3. I think I'll go b takes c, because this pawn is going to be hard to deal with once it reaches c2. So this has turned out well. The position after the opening was very, very dangerous and double-edged, but maybe it was okay for black. I'm not quite sure. I would have to look up my theory files to be sure. Studied this line, and I remember it was all very unclear, but I can't remember details. And yeah, in this position, it's hopeless. So InDoMable resigned. Very good game. Thanks InDoMable for playing. Let's keep it rolling and find the next opponent.
Until recently, chess was like this. Chess24 brought you this. Live interactive broadcasts from top tournaments with computer analysis and video commentary by the likes of Jan Gustafsson, Lawrence Trent and Peter Svidler. A play zone where you can take on opponents from all around the world 24/7. Interactive beginners courses ensuring you pick up the basics fast while having fun. A tactics trainer to sharpen your chess by solving puzzles adapted to your level. Hundreds of interactive videos letting you watch and learn from star players such as Vichy Anand, Peter Svidler, Paco Vallejo and Hu Yifan. You've given up on that outdated computer? That's why there are more reasons to use Chess24 on mobiles and tablets. Full playzone access, including pre-move. A tactics trainer so you can stay sharp wherever you are. Computer opponents you can challenge even when you're not online. Live broadcasts of top chess events. And the half? It's free. Well, that's half true. Most features are free, but limited for registered members. For a mere €99 per year, however, you can step up to premium membership and gain unlimited access to our video library. That and much more. See you at chess24.com.